On a cold winter day in the city of London, the famous Wonka chocolate factory prepares new bars that will be distributed to stores all over the world. 5 of these bars are awarded the golden ticket, which will change, overnight, the life of whoever finds it. Charlie Bucket is an ordinary little boy from a very humble family. He lives with his parents and grandparents in an old house, and most days they barely have anything to eat. However, Charlie is the luckiest boy in the world, he just doesn't know it yet. His father is an employee at a toothpaste factory, and although he works hard, his salary is terrible. In the evening, when he gets home, he kisses his wife, who is preparing a cabbage soup, and goes to talk to Charlie. On that day, Mr. Bucket brought his son presents. He hands the boy some small caps that are commonly used to close the toothpaste tube. Excited, the young man takes the pieces and finally manages to finish his factory. He built the entire chocolate factory using those little pieces. His grandfather Joe worked for Willy Wonka when he was younger. The owner of London's largest chocolate factory started with a single, small store in the city. However, the whole world came to love his sweets. His inventions were fantastic. Once, he even managed to find a way to make chocolate ice cream that stays frozen for hours out of the freezer. Soon after, Wonka decided to build a chocolate factory, which was known to be the largest in the world. Its success was so great that the Prince of Pondicherry wrote a letter to Mr. Wonka asking him to come to India to build a palace made entirely of chocolate. The building would have 100 rooms and, as promised, even the bricks and cement were made of chocolate. However, soon after it was completed, the scorching sun of the region caused the palace to go to ruin. In London, Willy Wonka also had his own problems to deal with. His great success began to make other chocolate makers jealous, and they sent spies to steal his recipes. Not long after, his competitors started coming out with ice cream that never melted, chewing gum that never lost its flavor, and making absurdly large balls. Disappointed by the betrayal, one day, without warning, Wonka fired all his employees and announced that he was closing his chocolate factory forever. In fact, the place remained closed for quite some time, but one fine day the smoke came out of the chimneys again, and the factory was up and running again. However, it is believed that all the employees have been replaced by machines, as no one has ever seen a single person going in or out of there again. After dinner, Charlie says good night to his grandparents and goes to bed. During the early morning hours, some people have been sent by Wonka to spread posters around town. Wonka communicates that he has decided to allow 5 children to visit his factory that year. In addition, one of these children will receive a special prize, better than anything they could ever imagine. In the news, a reporter announces the existence of the 5 golden tickets, which are hidden inside 5 packages of Wonka chocolate bars. These bars could be in any store in any city and country on the planet. As soon as this news was announced, the candy stores were packed with children, and even adults, in search of the prize-winning chocolate. Days later, Augustus Gloop becomes the first child in Germany to find the golden ticket. To celebrate this victory, he tells journalists that he ate even more chocolate. In England, Veruca Salt, a girl from a very wealthy family, becomes the second winner. As soon as his daughter said she wanted to win one of these golden tickets, Mr. Salt started buying thousands of Wonka bars and ordered his workers to unwrap them all. 3 days later, the ticket was found. Since Charlie's birthday would be the following week, his parents decide to bring his present forward and give him a Wonka chocolate bar. Everyone is excited about the possibility of Charlie finding the golden ticket. The boy slowly opens the package, but when he removes the paper, he discovers that he has not been awarded a prize. Disappointed, he shares the chocolate with his family and continues his life. Days later, on his way home from school, he finds out from the newspaper that the 3rd ticket was found in Georgia by a girl named Violet Beauregard, a junior grand champion who has won several awards in gum chewing competitions. In the city of Denver, Colorado, Mike TV finds his 4th ticket. The boy is a small genius addicted to video games who found the ticket by buying only a chocolate bar. That day, while watching TV, Charlie asks why his father didn't come to work, and the man says that he received vacation time from the company. However, the truth is that as chocolate consumption increased, toothpaste sales also increased and employees were replaced by machines. Later, Grandpa Joe calls Charlie and gives him his secret treasure. The old man takes out a coin that was hidden in a bag and asks the boy to buy another chocolate bar. In this way, they would have another chance to find the last ticket. Charlie then runs to the nearest store and buys the first Wonka bar he finds. Minutes later, he returns home. Together, he and his grandfather quickly open the bar, but again, they are unsuccessful. On the way to school the next day, Charlie overhears 2 men talking about the Russian boy who found the last golden ticket that morning. Hearing this, he continues on his way when he suddenly finds a $10 bill buried in the snow. After picking up the money, the young man runs to a candy store and buys a chocolate bar. Just then, he hears a woman saying that there was news in the newspapers that the invitation from the Russian boy was a fake. When he opens his bar, Charlie can hardly believe his eyes. He has just found the last golden ticket. The other customers in the store try to buy the boy's invitation, but the salesman advises Charlie not to give the ticket to anyone and to take it straight home. Upon seeing the invitation, his grandfather gets out of bed and starts dancing, then asks the boy's father to read the message aloud. At this time, they find out that the visit to the factory will take place the next day and that each child will have the right to bring a guardian along. So Grandpa Joe is willing to accompany Charlie, and the next morning they wait in front of the gates, along with the other winners. After crossing the gates, visitors are greeted by none other than Willy Wonka, who appears right after the puppet show, which was more like a horror show, in which the puppets all end up burned. As soon as they enter the factory, they take off their coats, because the temperature inside is quite warm. As they walk toward the first room, the children begin to introduce themselves, although Wonka says he doesn't care to know their names. Soon after, they arrive at the first department of the factory. The place seems to be completely magical, where everything is made of candy and every drop of the river is made of melted chocolate of the finest quality. The waterfall is responsible for mixing all the chocolate, leaving it light and aerated. The raw material is distributed throughout the factory through pipes, which suck thousands of gallons per hour. After introducing the place, Wonka allows his guests to taste the sweets available there. There, absolutely everything is edible, even the grass. Since he doesn't like sweets, Mike finds it more fun to destroy the decoration in that room. Augustus, on the other hand, eats everything he sees in front of him, while his mother keeps some sweets in her purse to eat later. While licking a lollipop, Veruca spots some Oompa Loompas working and everyone is surprised at their diminutive size. Wonka explains that he rescued them from Oompaland while on an expedition. The place, in fact, is a closed jungle infested with the most dangerous creatures in the world. To escape those ferocious monsters, the Oompa Loompas lived in trees and ate only green caterpillars, which, by the way, taste horrible. However, the food they enjoyed most was cocoa, but this fruit was very scarce. An Oompa Loompa was lucky if he found 3 or 4 cacao trees a year. When this happened, they would even deify him. So Wonka offered the chief of the Oompa Loompas all the cocoa they want. In exchange, they would have to work in his factory. After they accepted the deal, the man returned with the activities of his factory. While Wonka tells the story of how he met the Oompa Loompas, Augustus takes the opportunity to drink the chocolate and ends up falling into the river. Seconds later, the boy is sucked into the tube that distributes the chocolate throughout the factory and gets stuck. At that moment, the Oompa Loompas start a song as they go to rescue the gluttonous boy. They increase the suction force, so that Augustus is sucked in and sent to the fudge room, where he is to be rescued. Mrs. Gloop accompanies the Oompa Loompa there, hoping to find her son again, and the other guests board a ferry to be taken to their next destination. During the ride, Charlie asks about Wonka's childhood and this questioning leaves the man reflective. Willy Wonka was the son of the most famous dentist in his town, Wilbur Wonka. After getting candy from other children on Halloween, his father throws it all into the fire. The boy had been wearing braces since he was very young and had never tried any candy. Later, while cleaning the fireplace, he finds a chocolate that had not been burned and decides to open the wrapper to take a bite. After that, the boy became addicted to sweets and could no longer live without it. After falling into a waterfall, the factory owner and his visitors spot some important rooms where the creams and whipped cream are made. At that moment, the river becomes even more turbulent and the group is carried downstream to the invention room, where the new candies are created. According to Wonka, that is the most important room in the factory and allows the children to observe everything that is being done inside. The first invention that he shows is the everlasting gobstopper, which looks more like a snooker ball. You can suck on them as much as you want and they never get smaller. Next, he shows the hair toffee. Whoever dares to eat it, in a few minutes will have a new tuft of hair growing on top of his head, as well as a beard and a mustache. At least, that is the idea. However, the invention is not ready yet, because an Oompa Loompa tried the caramel the day before and got covered with hair all over his body. Finally, the man presents his magic gum. A single piece of this gum is equivalent to a whole meal. Immediately, Violet decides to try it, even though Wonka claims that the chewing gum is not ready yet. As the girl chews the gum, new flavors appear in her mouth, but when she gets to the blackberry pie dessert, her nose starts to turn blue and the color spreads throughout her body. In addition, Violet begins to swell, and she quickly becomes mulberry-like in appearance. Just then, the Oompa Loompas arrive to the rescue and start the show. During the musical performance, they roll the girl into the juice room, where she will be squeezed like an orange. Soon after, the small group enters the nut room. The employees responsible for shelling them are squirrels, who are specially trained to check that each one is in perfect condition. The nuts that are spoiled are discarded before they are even opened. Seeing those little rodents, Veruca orders her father to buy one of them for her, and Mr. Salt asks Wonka how much he wants for one of those animals. The factory owner then claims that they are not for sale, and Veruca decides to go there to steal a squirrel. Her father calls her back, but the girl ignores him. When the girl threatens to catch one of those animals, they all gather to attack her. The squirrels drag Veruca to the garbage chute and discard her, as if she were a spoiled nut. Then the rodents return to work, and Mr. Salt joins the Oompa Loompas to rescue the young girl. However, he ends up being knocked over by a squirrel and falls into the garbage chute to join his daughter. The rest of the group gets into an elevator that can take them anywhere in that factory. The elevator can move sideways, up and down. Just push a button and visitors will be taken to any room. On the way, they pass the chocolate mountain and the cotton candy room. Soon after, they visit the puppet room and the administration center. As they travel throughout the factory, Wonka overhears Mike saying that all that work is meaningless because candy, according to him, is a waste of time. In that instant, he remembers the moment when his father discovered his passion for chocolate and disowned him. After that, Wonka ran away from home and planned to visit several countries in search of the best chocolate. Still in the elevator, Mike asks permission to choose a room and takes the group to the TV room. As they enter, Wonka advises everyone to put on their goggles and not to remove them at all, because that light could blind them. In that room was Wonka's newest invention, the chocolate television. One day he thought that if television can split a picture into millions of little pieces and then reassemble them, why couldn't it do the same with chocolate? This is how he came up with the idea of transporting a chocolate through the TV. Mike, as a genius scientist, doubts that this is possible. So Wonka decides to make a demonstration. He plans to send a bar of chocolate from one side of the room to the other. For this experiment, a gigantic bar is needed, as the TV reduces the actual size of the particles. After placing the chocolate in a tunnel, a strong light causes it to disappear and be transported to a screen, where there were several monkeys. At Wonka's request, Charlie takes the bar, and Mike can hardly believe his eyes at what he has just seen. What was supposed to be just an image on the screen became a real chocolate bar. This was the same bar that was carried by the Oompa Loompas, it just shrank in size after the trip. Excited by the idea of teleporting, Mike enters the tunnel and ends up on another TV channel, where the Oompa Loompas are the main attraction. With his diminutive size, the young boy is saved by his father before he is destroyed, and Wonka asks one of his Oompa Loompas to take them both to the taffy puller. His idea was to stretch the boy until he returns to full size. There is still a lot to see in the chocolate factory, but Charlie is the only child left. So Wonka declares him a winner and decides to take him, along with his grandfather, on a special trip. They go up to the top floor and the elevator shatters the glass ceiling. However, the box has propulsion motors, like a rocket, which prevents them from having a fatal fall. While the trio flies over the factory, Augustus and his mother leave the place, with the boy covered in chocolate. Then Violet and her mother walk out the door. Although she is back to her original size and has a much more flexible body, the girl is still blue. After being taken out of the trash, Mr. Salt and Veruca leave. And, finally, Mr. TV returns home with Mike. In the flying elevator, Wonka asks where Charlie lives and the boy points to the little old house. They destroy the roof as they enter the house, and Charlie's parents are very frightened by the unexpected landing. While searching the family kitchen, Wonka reveals that Charlie was the winner. As a prize, the man will give him his entire factory. Everyone is incredulous at the news, so Wonka explains what made him make this decision. A few months ago, while cutting his hair, he found a strand of white hair on his shoulder. In that instant, Wonka realized that he was getting old and began to wonder who would take over all that work when he retired. Then the man realized that he needed an heir and made a selection to find the ideal person. From that moment on, Charlie becomes his official heir and will soon take control of the entire factory. From that day on, the boy was to go and live in the factory together with Wonka, but his family could not go with him. Charlie decides to refuse the proposal and says that he will not leave his family for all the chocolate in the world. Wonka was not expecting this and finds the boy's decision strange, but decides to respect it and walk away, leaving all that damage behind. The next morning, Charlie helps his parents fix the hole in the roof, and Grandpa Joe spends the whole day out of bed helping to put the house in order. In the following weeks, Charlie's father gets a better job at the toothpaste factory, fixing the machine that previously replaced him. The situation was never so good for the Bucket family. In contrast, the same could not be said for Willy Wonka. During a therapy session with one of the Oompa Loompas, the man blurts out that ever since he heard Charlie's decision to abandon a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be next to his family, he has been feeling terrible, so his candy has been coming out lousy. So he decides to pay the boy a visit. Charlie shines the shoes of a customer and soon discovers that the man is Willy Wonka. The young man asks what he was doing outside the factory, and Wonka reveals that he has not been feeling well. Charlie asks what the man has against his family, and Wonka says that in general he doesn't like parents, because they are always telling what their kids should and shouldn't do. However, Charlie manages to convince him that parents only do this because they want the good of their children. After the conversation, Wonka decides to go pay his father a visit and the boy offers to accompany him. They get into the elevator and are transported to Dr. Wilbur's house. Once there, Charlie rings the doorbell. After answering the door, the man believes these are customers and asks them to come in. He assesses Willy's teeth and, surprised, says that they are all in perfect condition. While looking around the office, Charlie spots several news reports that Mr. Wilbur has kept. They all extol Willy Wonka and his chocolate factory. After thoroughly assessing his patient's teeth, the dentist recognizes his son and, fearfully, they embrace. That same day, Willy Wonka repeated his offer to Charlie, who accepted on the condition that he would continue to live with his parents and grandparents. In the end, Charlie won the chocolate factory, but Wonka won something even more precious, a family.